All systems go. Clear for liftoff.
Oh, baby, we're back talking fights. 13 of them, hopefully. Fingers crossed, 13 fights. Weigh-ins going. Everybody has weighed in. We just got Levy is the only weight miss thus far, and it does not look like he missed by much, like a half pound, it looks like, or something. So, yeah, expect all 13 right now. A couple more to weigh in. Feels a little weird, though, Marley, going from UFC 299, one of the best cards we've had, to a mediocre at best 13 fight card. Now, I say that talking real life, fight fan, MMA, gambling aside. Now, we care about the gambling aspect, making money. I think it's a good DFS card. 13 fights, of course, my magic number is 12. 13's good. Two favorites, I would say, in a tier of their own. We got Mike Davis minus 500, Kennedy minus 700. But other than that, a lot of closely lined fights. And then the main events, big boys, high variance, pretty much a coin flip right there. So our ownership is up and our projections are up on the site right now. Everything else will be coming up as well after the show, but we have nobody above 50% owned. If there is anybody, I think it will be Kennedy. We have him at 49%, but yeah, I'm expecting a pretty fun card. How you doing on this fine Friday afternoon, Big Marley?
Yeah, I'm good. Definitely would be a card that I would skip if it wasn't for DFS, but DraftKings is what is going to make this card fun. I do think there's a lot of ways to go on this card. There's no real favorites that I want to take a big stand on. I think I want to go heavy on the main event. But I think there's a lot of close fights on this card. So I'm looking forward to talking it out with you. I might adjust ownership as we go. I was like really close my first run, and then I ended up throwing on the extra 10 or something that I needed, but I almost hit you up. And I was like, what would you adjust with this? Because I was kind of struggling with my last adjustments, but we'll do that during the show. Hopefully we'll be finalized by the end of it, but looking forward to shipping it.
Yeah, no, I like a lot of this stuff. You have the ownership up, you adjust, and we talk through stuff just like mine. I have every fight done. Pretty much all my content is done, but I don't want to post it to the site yet because I value, obviously, what you say, and you changed my mind on some of this stuff too. So love the tandem we got going. What's going on? G. Kuiper. Hey, I appreciate that. Wolf of Ball Street, Red Scott, Matt in here. We appreciate those words. Very nice of you. Monk MMA in here. Ben's in here. Sean Sullivan's in here. Hope everything's going well, Ben. We'll be thinking of you. But yeah, I'm excited for this one again. 13 fights. We appreciate that like button. Appreciate that subscribe button. Obviously, a lot of you watch on playback. Hey, just get it done now. Enjoy the rest of the show. We greatly appreciate it. And if you do want to join us at the Nation, no better time to get in. PGA. Man, DGen, you on that Wednesday stream, that was awesome. I see him in the Discord a little bit. You said sack the AM wave in the big chat yesterday. AM wave, if you have the right guys, looking pretty good right now. No better in the business. DFS, Hoop, MMA, of course, we got going on. NHL, NBA, MLB will be here before you know it. And hey, what I love about the merger, you got MMA Saturdays, no NFL Sundays, no free money Sunday right now, unfortunately. Y'all got NASCAR, though, baby. Saturday, MMA, big prize pools, NASCAR, big prize pools on Sunday. All those sports, one price, and use that code MASTERS15. Gets you 15% off. You sign up for the month, and 1 month from now, you will get Masters content. So make sure to use that promo code. Gets you 15% off. And again, weekly, monthly, 6 month, and annual packages over here. Head over to shippingnation.com. Give it a try. And I'll always shout out Big Marley, but hey, ownership is tough in this game. MMA, ownership means as much as pretty much any sport. Big Marley has had the best in the industry since our man Sheets has been tracking. So shout out you, Big Marley. Very important. Again, that is on the site for Ship It Nation members right now. Let's go fight by fight, starting from bottom to top. First fight of the night. Chara, I'm gonna say, oh man, I was just doing this shit too. Hold on. Let me sound this one out.
Like Charlemagne? No, that's
Charalapos Gregorio. How about we go with that? Charalapos Gregorio at minus 170. It sounds right. It took me like 8 seconds to really look at it. But I'm going to go Trampus Gregorio at minus 170, making his UFC debut, taking on and Heler. Minus 170 is Gregorio. Plus 145 is Heler. This fight is minus 155 to finish. Gregorio plus 130 inside the distance. and Heler plus 300. I'll throw it to you right away to start this one off. What are you doing in this one? Hey, are we going to get whatever we're doing? I hope it works out as well as the Wood Rose fight did last week, because I had a ton of that fight. I think a lot of people did. We recommended it, and it was looking good. Morose early, Calder with there was plenty of pass for that to be optimal. So I feel good. I felt good about that, and I hope you pick a winner right here for us in this first fight.
Yeah, last week started out great, ended not great for me, but started out the first handful of fights perfectly, really. But yeah, this one, I don't like this first fight as much. It is minus 155 to end inside the distance, which is pretty solid. But I do think that this Gregorio guy is just a little bit better. I think he's a lot more aggressive with a lot more power in his punches. I also think either guy could land a couple takedowns, but I wouldn't expect either one of them to be chain wrestling. They're both primarily strikers, so I expect this to be a striking match. And if we're not going to end inside the distance and we're only mixing in one, maybe two takedowns, I don't think either side is going to score well in a decision. And I think that is what would put Heler in play, is just if he could win the close decision at $7,300. He probably won't be too owned. I think he's in play for that reason. But I just don't really like him, and he's like 37 years old now, not really good at anything. He needs to get a knockout to break the slate, and even if he does win a close decision, he might not 10x. So I'm probably going to get away from this fight, but on the Gregorio side, if he does have heavy hands, if he could knock out Heler, which Heler has not been knocked out yet, so that's the worry, then he could make the optimal lineup, and I don't think he's going to get a lot of ownership because there are a few people that are priced higher than him that I expect to soak up a good amount of it. So I think he's more of a pivot away from all the 9K range, just at ownership alone. Like, let's say you could afford any of those 9K people. If you just drop down to Gregorio and the rest of your lineup is somewhat chalky, I think that makes some sense there. So I'll get a little bit of Gregorio exposure, but this is a fight I really want to get away from and hope that he wins with like a 75-point score.
I'm glad I throw it to you first, because I won't have to talk nearly as much. I see it literally the exact same you do. Like, I like plenty of other guys in that upper 9K or in that 9K range, the upper 8K range, than Gregorio in a vacuum. But this fight is minus 155 to finish. He is plus 130 inside the distance. And you did mention his ownership. He will. I'm not going to say the ownership for every fight right now because we do have it posted. So if you are a Ship Nation member, go to our website right now and click it. MMA, obviously, ownership, very important. We'll keep it premium this week. I do usually say it out loud because we don't always have it posted right before. We do now, so I'm not going to go through that. But yeah, there's no doubt Gregorio is going to be one of the lower owned options in that tier. But I'm with you. I mean, I think rightfully so. Like, we look who's in that tier. We got Fialho at 8,700. We got Dolgarian. We have, those are both cheaper, who are way better plays. Wrestling, grappling, fights that are supposed to finish. GM3, 9,100. Kennedy, Mike Davis, Thiago Moises, like all those guys are way, way better plays in a vacuum. Money line, inside the distance prop, etc. Mike Davis, not necessarily inside the distance prop, but in terms of money line, in terms of volume, takedowns, etc., we know he has the upside there. So yeah, I'm just using Gregorio in lineups that I am pretty chalky in. But yeah, my single entry and stuff like that, definitely not going to get to him. I prefer Chad if I had to pick a side because of the $1,300 or the $1,600 savings. But man, like you said, I think this fight takes place on the feet. I think it's pitter patter probably most of the fight. If it goes to decision, I don't think any of them make the optimal. Like, Chad wins, he still could score 75, which you take at this price, I guess, as a dog, which is why I'm picking him, because 75 could be enough, where it's definitely not enough for Gregorio. But still, like, I mean, man, he's not very good. He's 36. He's dealt with a lot of injuries. He hasn't fought very often. Doesn't have, I mean, he has some pop in his hands, but I think Gregorio probably the heavy hitter, the more heavy hitter. Yeah, at the end of the day, long-winded answer of saying I don't love this fight much. Some of these dogs, like Mitch Ramirez, like OSP, Natan Levy, are easy fades for me. So I'm keeping Heler in the pool. Again, he's my preferred play, but he falls down the list, like probably my fifth favorite dog or something on the card I hope it's unlike last week and we get a boring decision, a 3rd-round knockout from Gregorio, something like that, and it's not on the winner. But, yeah, both of them will be in my pool. I don't want too much ownership. Gregorio in chalkier lineups, and then Heler as just a dog I'll be mixing in is how I see it. Say someone's picking winners, Shark. That's the goal, man. That is the goal. What's going on, Nicholas? Waiting for this show. We're picking optimal scores, not necessarily winners. Hey, our man Nicholas knows we're trying to pick some winners, but yes, like Nicholas says, it's more game theory. It's more picking the fights. At least that's how I play MMA. Picking fights, I think, will be optimal, and jamming those more than actually picking the winner. Nicholas been listening to me, man. I love that stuff. So we'll keep it rolling, though. First fight of the night. Hope it's pretty boring. Expect it to stay on the feet myself. Next fight on the card, Corey McKenna, Jacqueline Amorim, -175 is McKenna, +150 or +150 is Amorim on the way back. This fight's +130 to finish. Amorim +200 inside the distance. Corey McKenna +455. All right, this is an interesting one, Big Marley. This line opened +1 or -140 Amorim, +120 McKenna. McKenna stayed a dog for what, 2 weeks? A little over a week. And then money this past couple of days has just poured in on her. It was like -125 on Monday. Now it's -175 for Corey McKenna. Her inside the distance prop, +550 down to +455. Amorim's inside the distance prop was all the way down to +160, +170 even yesterday. Now that's up to +200. Money's consistently been coming in on Corey McKenna, but the dog in Amorim has a way better inside the distance prop, which makes sense with their grappling credentials, fast starter, etc. 8,200, 8,000, closest line on the card. I switched my pick on this, at least my preferred play. My preferred play, I thought earlier in the week, was going to be Amorim, but I'm buying into this line movement. And I think Corey McKenna, I'm going to throw it to you on this note. I mean, do you think she does what she usually does and gets takedowns? Amorim was fine off her back. Obviously, she'll be fine getting taken down, I think. Do you think McKenna's fine playing in guard and trying to stay safe for 10 minutes and get 3 takedowns and win a fight that way? Because if so, I think she can be optimal at 8,200. I just don't expect to finish at the end of the day, whereas Amorim definitely has finished upside. So I'll have some of her. But, yeah, what do you see this fight going?
Yeah, I'm almost the opposite way, where I started the week liking McKenna a little bit because I do think she could just stay in top control, grind out 10 minutes, get 3+ takedowns in this fight and do solid. But I also think she is the better striker of the two. And if they're going to spend time on the feet, then I don't like either side of this fight.
Yeah, no.
So that's the worry, is that McKenna just stuffs takedowns, doesn't really care to wrestle too much herself. I just don't trust her, I guess. But if I knew her game plan was to go in there and get takedowns, then
I'm not convinced she's that much even of a better striker, which is like the reason I think she might get there. Like, I feel like Amorim has way more pop on the shots. Like McKenna, she throws pillows. Like the shortest arms, just like, I mean, yeah, more technical and stuff. But
yeah,
Amorim at least throws something, like means something when she throws. But I do agree, she's definitely more technical. She can do it for 15 minutes. Who knows about Amorim? Keep going though.
But yeah, both sides can wrestle. But with Amorim, I think she is a little bit more dangerous, especially early in the fight. So if she's the one landing takedowns, I think she's live for a first round finish.
Yeah, and
her ownership should be shrinking now, because when I did this fight, it was -125 McKenna, and now she's like -175. So that's 8% more likely to win than she was on Monday. And I just don't really see where that's coming from. I don't know that it's anything that's happened. I don't think Amorim is injured or anything. I think it's just somebody placed a big bet. They probably sell bets, and their followers jumped on it as well. So it's like one person changing this line, is my opinion. And I'm kind of cool just going on the other side of it at this point. Amorim is now my preferred play in GPPs. I think McKenna's a good cash game play. You got to just take the value in cash. But in GPPs, with this ownership shrinking, Amorim still has the same ceiling she had on Monday. So I'll probably get leverage on the underdog now. And since McKenna's ownership will be raising, I was planning on being maybe 25% or so, but now she might be over that. So I might lessen my ownership on McKenna and be 20% or even less, and just hoping that Amorim wins this fight. But ultimately, I did pick McKenna to win a pretty close fight because I think she's her cardio is a little bit more trustworthy. I think maybe she's the better offensive wrestler, especially in the second and the third round. I think she is the more technical striker and could just hang out, at range and pick her way to a striking decision, which would really suck for DraftKings. We need this fight to take place on the ground, but it is right there in the mid-range. Both sides make sense. It's just that the whole new line is changing it for me, and I'm kind of switching my preferred play to the underdog now.
It's funny that we both switched we were on the different sides and we both switched and came together. Well, we didn't come together. We're still opposite, but we started opposite. We both switched midweek as well with this line movement. It's definitely confusing. What I will say on this fight is it's surrounded by Tabura, Tai Tuivasa, the main event, 5 rounds, by far the most likely to finish. So you know that fight's going to be way higher owned. Then you get Isaac Dolgarian, who we'll get to in a little bit. I guess in a little while, $8,500, who's clearly going to be pretty highly owned there. So if you leave like a 300 on the table, I'm not saying you build a Dolgarian lineup, go Dolgarian and McKenna, etc. But if you have McKenna and you do leave 300 plus, and Dolgarian's not in that lineup, like you're going to have low deuce. Like there's just no other way. McKenna's a way worse play than Dolgarian on paper, but money line odds are pretty similar. Both can wrestle. Just wanted to point that out. But that's the ownership of this fight has to at least stay somewhat in check. I'm wondering what McKenna gets up to with this line movement, but still like plus 45, plus 455 inside the distance, still surrounded by main event and Dolgarian. I don't think it can get too crazy. When Matt Amorim, I've seen sharp with the line move. McKenna isn't great anywhere, honestly. Yeah, I mean, she definitely is not great anywhere. I do agree. Like Amorim has way more first round finishing upside though, which is why I'm going to play some. And she will be low owned. But at the end of the day, I still don't love this fight. I like it more than Ann Elliger, that last fight we just talked about, but there's still plenty more better fights on this card, in my opinion. We got 13 of them to talk about. So
I also don't love it because I could see Amorim winning the first round and then McKenna being like, all right, I have to just beat her to the punch and start wrestling myself. And then she wins the second and the third round, and that's just not enough at that point. So maybe that happens and McKenna scores 82 points in the decision, and I would guess that doesn't get there.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. Yeah, just like in the Sam Hughes fight, we've seen Amorim slow down, a fast starter. She can take the back. We'll control most of the fight there, so that's definitely in the cards as well. Yeah, again, another fight I'll be using kind of in lineups that are a little chalkier because the main event right around it, Dolgarian, etc. Amorim will be lower owned, so especially if you need a low-owned fighter, Amorim has upside, plus 150, not bad at all. Enough on that fight, though. Let's keep it rolling. Joshua Kulabakhov, Danny Silva, minus 180 is Kulabakhov, plus 155 is Silva. This fight is plus 130 to finish. Kulabakhov plus 240 inside the distance. Danny Silva plus 360. I mean, man. I'll say, as far as Kulabakhov, I look at him like, what did I call him, Giroux earlier? I'm really curious what is actually. I'm going to call him Giroux again. 8,900, 8,800 is Kulabakhov. I look at them so similar. I expect this fight to mainly play out on the feet. Kulabakhov is low volume. Both of them right in that same price range. Like I have both of them tagged as underweight in the slate plan. I'll say that right now. Their ownership will be pretty low owned too. So I'm going to cap their ownership, and then I'll use them in chalkier lineups. At least is my plan, is how I'm going to attack them. Way more interest in the Danny Silva side. I like Danny Silva more than Chad and Helliger if I had to pick, for the simple fact of he landed over 200 significant strikes, 204 significant strikes, and threw 317 strikes in the Contender Series fight. I mean, he literally plods forward. He's fine eating one to give one, and he'll just keep going. Volume, volume, volume. Cardio's there for days. Hey, what's going on, John? We appreciate that. Right on cue. Think Silva gets optimal if he wins? I'll throw it to you, Marley, but my answer is yes. If you tell me he's winning, I'm 100% in 20 entry and below. In 150, I don't know if I'm quite 100%, but I mean, man, I'm at least over 100. So yeah, with his volume, I do think if he wins, he'll probably be optimal at this price. But we really do appreciate that, John. That $10. Hope you're doing well. Very nice of you.
Yeah. Thank you, John. Yeah, I do think Silva has a good chance of being optimal if he wins, just because of that pace alone. And he also has knockout power too. So he has like 100-point upside. He has 100-point upside just with that volume alone. I don't see this being anywhere near that Dana White's Contender Series fight, that same pace. mostly because of the Kulabakhov side. Silva landed 204 significant strikes in that one fight. Kulabakhov has had 6 UFC fights, 75 minutes worth of cage time, and he has not landed 204 combined significant strikes. So my plan is to just completely X out Kulabakhov here. He is plus 240 inside the distance. Silva's hittable, and Kulabakhov could maybe even choke him out if he goes to the ground, but he doesn't wrestle, or he's not really going to wrestle much anyways. And he's not a big-time power puncher, so I don't want to rely on that. And if it gets out of the first round, maybe a knockout from him won't even be enough at 8,800. So Kulabakhov, complete fade for me. And then Silva at 7,400, I will be overweight to him. I'm picking him to win just because of that volume alone. I think that the line should be a little bit closer. And if he can throw 204 significant strikes, then I feel good about his score even in a decision here. But he's got knockout power, could score 100 points and break the slate. So Silva's the leverage play for me, but I think it really comes down to how many underdogs win on this card. I think there's other underdogs with, higher ceilings, but I only picked a few to win. So Silva's definitely one of my favorites.
Do you prefer Macy? Are you going to have any Macy? I guess is the question, Chason. Because I was debating I don't like Kulabakhov much. Macy, I guess right now I think you even talked me into it. I think I'm going to go Macy underweight, Kulabakhov fade in the slate plan. But what are your thoughts on Macy? Like, again, another low-owned pivot in that 9K range, similar to Kulabakhov, et cetera. But I would
definitely have more Chason. I'm much more interested in her. I don't think she'll get much ownership either. And I think she has a much more likely ceiling if she wins. So Kulabakh's my favorite fade on the card, to be honest.
Yeah, I like it. And again, that's why I don't publish anything up yet. I was debating those two, and I was debating Giroux in there as well, but you made my life very easy. I won't be having Kulabakhov on 20 and below. I like Silva's side. Macy we'll get to in a little bit, but I do think she's going to be low owned. Again, similar thoughts of in chalky lineups to get different. I think she's fine, and she does have upside in that matchup. But let's get to the next fight on the card. And again, we appreciate that, John. What's going on, Jake? Hope you're doing well. Oh, I thought he said happy birthday. It's someone's birthday in here. He said, how about you, though? Next fight on the card, Jafel Fialho taking on Ode Osborne. Fialho minus 153. Ode Osborne plus 133. This fight, one of the most likely to finish on the card at minus 260. Fialho minus 110. Ode Osborne plus 270. So we have seen line movement in this one. When the odds came out on Monday, or it was Sunday, one of the two, it was around minus 180. So this fight opened minus 155. Fialho got down to minus 180. Ode got some buyback, and it's now sitting at now the line's minus 153, 133. So just looking at pricing, Ode's the side in terms of value on the money line. You look at inside the distance prop, Ode's very good at plus 270 for 7,500. Now, what I will say about Fialho, though, is, 8,700 for minus 153 is a little bit of an overspend if you look at it like that. But as you guys know, we don't care about money line value as much, et cetera, and GPPs. You need a big boy score. Fialho's got a big boy upside in this one. And I think his ownership is going to be lower than it should. I'm looking at what we have right now. I'll say that out loud, 19%. I'm going to be overweight on Fialho at 19%. The grappling advantage, he wants to get to the fight to the mat. Showed a lot of toughness in his last fight. Ode advantage on the feet, Fialho on the mats. And again, Ode's going to – I like both sides of this fight. But I do like the line movement going against Fialho and overspending for upside. And I'm going to pick him, too, with the grappling advantage to get a sub. So, yeah, great fight to target. By far the best that we've talked about thus far on the card, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm kind of the opposite as that McKenna fight on this one, where I like the favorite more now because this line is shrinking. I think Fialho's ownership comes down. I would have had him mid-20s if he was still minus 180 here. But I moved him down sub-20 because of that. And now, on the other side, Osborne, his ownership should be climbing, whereas I liked him a little bit before if he was going to go overlooked, because I do think Osborne's the better striker here. Osborne might be the better wrestler, too. So if he can just use his wrestling to keep this fight on the feet, I think Osborne wins, and he could knock this guy out. So on Monday, I would have had a lot more Osborne, but now, he might be 25+% owned, and I don't know that I want to get leverage to that. So I'm thinking, let me just get leverage to the Fialho side. I think if he's going to win this fight, it's going to come through the ground. He's not a great wrestler, but he's a really good grappler, and I think he will, attempt to chain wrestle until he can get the fight to the ground. And eventually I see him doing that and probably submitting Osborne. So Fialho is my preferred play. He's my pick to win. And I'm going to be more overweight to him now than I would have been on Monday. And I'll probably be around field on Osborne, if not underweight now, because the field just might have passed me by with this new line. But good fight to target overall. Get exposure to both sides, but for me, it's cash games, Osborne, GPPs, Fialho.
Yeah, no, I like this fight. I mean, I was with you. Even beginning of the week when I thought Fialho would be like 25, 30%, I still was going to get some. So I really like this line movement coming down, expecting ownership to come down. I'll still play Ode. I'll be the donkey, even if he's 25%. I'll have some of them because that's when I'll be using some of those lower owned pieces in lineups like that or leaving money, etc. But Ode has 100+ point upside, like first round knockout upside. Fialho got dropped in his last fight against a striker, showed toughness, and when he gets it to the mat, I mean, so most people watching probably recognize some of these names, but Fialho is the one that fought Mikhaev. There's a million fighters on the roster. You probably can tell when I butcher some of these names. It's too many to know all of them, and they're all over the world. But Fialho fought Mikhaev, what was it, like a year ago about, I think, and he had him in that knee bar in the third round. And how Mikhaev didn't tap, who knows? But, man, like, if he wins that fight on paper, I feel like this line would naturally just somehow be like minus 200 or something. But give me Fialho to get it to the mat eventually. But I'll definitely be playing some Osborne too. Preferred play, Fialho, especially at the ownership, the line movement going against him. I will be having a lot of this fight, though, for sure. Merab O'Malley is going to be very fun, Jake. No doubt about that. Let's keep it rolling. Next fight, 13 to talk about again. Appreciate everyone hanging out with us. Like button, subscribe button helps us out a ton. And if you want all of our MMA content, projections, ownership, slate plans, fight rankings to go along with NBA, NHL, PGA, NASCAR, MLB will be here before you know it. No better price, no better content in the industry. ShippingNation.com, and you can use that code Masters15 to get 15% off those packages. Keep it rolling, Big Marley. Next fight on the card, back to the women's division. Josiana Nunes taking on Chelsea Chandler. Minus 141 is Nunes, plus 121 is Chandler, This fight's minus 130 to finish. Nunes plus 165. Chandler plus 300. Looking at, hold on, let me refresh the weigh-ins. All right, Chelsea Chandler still is not weighed in. That was one that I had circled for sure because, I mean, there's no such thing really as a 145 division anymore. She fought Norma Dumont at 145. Many of y'all probably remember that fight because if you ever seen the movie, oh my gosh, what is the when they have that black guy that's strapped in the chair down below and like they're messing with them, doing all the like. Someone in chat's got to know. It's so popular of a movie too. And I'm about to use an analogy. And anyway, it's when the dude's like, he's trying to take off and just like screaming, running as fast as he can, booking it. That's what Chelsea Chandler was doing against Dumont in the first round last time. When she was cracked, she turned right around and was running for the fence like she was going to run through it. Still one of the funniest things I've ever seen. And I need someone in chat to give me that movie. My description probably wasn't very good, but it's a creepy family that like auctions off slaves pretty much. I mean, so popular. Someone's going to drop it in here. Back to MMA though. I'm on the dog in this one, Big Marley. Get out. Yes. Thank you. Get out is right. That is exactly. Thank you, Jordan. Thank you, G. Kuiper. That's what Chelsea Chandler was doing, running, trying to get out of the octagon last fight. Daniel's in here. All the people in here now. Back to this fight though. Give me the dog in this one. If I'm picking, prefer playing DraftKings. My pick to win this fight. I mean, you look at these two, again, assuming Chelsea Chandler makes weight and this fight's on, she's what? Only three people, Silva, Kulabakhov, and actually four. Mike Davis, Kulabakhov, Silva, and Chandler are left to weigh in. So a little nervous right here with Chelsea Chandler. But assuming she's good, she's going to look like 3 weight classes above Nunes. Nunes is as small as it gets. Chandler's big. Going to have to cut down to this weight. I think all she needs is a takedown to end up on top and just be fine for a whole round, do damage, etc. Nunes has some pop in her hands, but man, I mean, she is so short. She just loops those left hands, just loops them. Can she catch Chandler? Sure. And I'll have some at 8,400. Give me Chandler, though, to win this fight. I like her as a play. I think there's wrestling upside, and you can build lineups. Plug in Nunes, take out Nunes, go Chandler, leave 600. And I'm totally good with that. Tell Marley. Yeah, I'm not going to put that one up. But, yeah, what's going on, Marley?
That's my Call of Duty buddy down there.
Yeah, I figured it was something. What's going on?
Yeah, I agree, man. I'm on the underdog in this one. I think the wrong fighter is favored. I think this is a lot of recency bias, really, with Chandler running in that last fight. I mean, that was probably the last time I literally laughed out loud in a fight was when she was running away. But I mean, that's what people remember about her. And then she lost the fight. And then you got this Nunes girl who's knocking girls out, which it doesn't happen much. So that's why Nunes is favored here. I don't think she is a better fighter. I think in a striking match, a 15-minute striking match, she's more likely to knock out Chandler. But I don't rely on knockouts in WMMA, to be honest with you. And this girl's 5'2". I mean, she's so short. I feel like Chandler could just hold her head out there, and then
it's crazy. She's knocking people out. Like, it's like when you watch on TV, it's like, what is going on? But she obviously has some pop.
Yeah, I mean, she's definitely got power. But in a 15-minute striking match, give me Chandler, to be honest with you. I think she's the better striker overall. Both of them are hittable. But, I mean, that really only matters a lot on the Chandler side if she gets knocked out. And that's what puts Nunes on the optimal lineup. A 15-minute fight with Nunes winning a decision, I don't think she is on the optimal lineup. Even if she wins all 3 rounds, I still think she's probably not going to make the optimal lineup. But now Chandler is the one with wrestling upside. She lost her last fight because she got out-wrestled, but she doesn't have that worry in this fight anymore. Chandler's going to be the better wrestler in this one. And when she goes for takedowns, Nunes isn't going to have anything to offer off her back. I think Chandler could put up 100+ points in this one if she does go out there and wrestle. So give me the underdog. I will be overweight for sure to Chandler, and I'll be underweight to Nunes. I'm not going to completely fade her because since I'm going to be so high on Chandler, I need a little bit of hedge in case that knockout happens. I don't want to be completely pissed off. But, yeah, I think the wrong girl's favorite here. Give me Chandler to win, and maybe clearly. Very clear.
But yeah, I love to hear that. I'm already on Canberra watching on playback. Get out. Thanks, my man. I definitely butcher your name. So Camar, bro, 1LE. That's what I'm gonna call you. But yeah, I love it. I mean, I was on Chandler. You were on Chandler. That makes me feel really good. What I will say though, because I'm not fading Nunes by any means either, she's got to be her ownership's got to be capped because Dolgarian's going to be 100 more, going to be a lot higher on 8,500. Then you get 8,300, 7,900 with Ty and Tybura. So Nunes has to be capped for sure. And this money line isn't great for her. Plus 165 inside the distance is still fine. So while I am picking Chandler, prefer Chandler, all of that, like someone mentioned, Nicholas mentioned earlier in chat, mainly I pick fights and ownership and etc. is how I play MMA DFS. Even though I think she loses, if she wins, she has upside. Ownership will be capped. She will be in my pool for that reason. But yeah, Chandler for both of us. I love it. Let's keep it rolling. Plenty still to talk about. Mike Davis, Natan Levy. Again, Mike Davis hasn't weighed in yet. Minus 500 is Mike Davis. Plus 375 on the way back is Natan Levy. This fight is plus 145 to finish with all the finish equity on the Davis side at plus 145. Natan Levy plus 1,100. Mike Davis, the third highest price fighter on the card, the second biggest favorite. He opened minus 300, and man, is he taking money the past week. I mean, I'm looking at March 7th, he was minus 241. March 9th, minus 245. Fast forward a couple days, not even a week, minus 500. I agree with the line movement. I think Mike Davis is better wherever this fight goes. I love watching Mike Davis fights. That Mason Jones fight was amazing. He's always in fun fights, I guess. The Slavaclaws was fun for me because I had a lot of them, but he took the easiest path to victory. Like, why strike with Slavaclaws? Take him down. I think Mike Davis can win this fight wherever he wants. Lands over 5 significant strikes per minute. Lands over 3 takedowns per 15. He's a DFS monster. You don't even need a finish for him. But yeah, I do think he'll be the second most popular in the upper tier. I feel confident about that. But I still think he's probably like 10% less than Kennedy and the 200. So if you play a lineup, you have Kennedy, take him out, play Mike Davis, you leave 200. I think, depending on what your other 5 spots are, you can cut out a lot of dupes and stuff just doing that, I think. Even if Mike Davis is 40%, Kennedy's 50, the 200 being able to upgrade, etc., I think will do enough. So yeah, I like Mike Davis plenty. He's my second favorite in the upper tier. I guess in the 9K range behind Kennedy, but yeah, like him or Moises, I guess, to throw it to you in this card or in this fight than anything else you got to say.
Yeah. Speaking of Moises, we skipped that fight, so we have to go back to that one.
Yeah, we 100% did. Yeah, my bad.
Yeah. Man,
we have 40%. I'll just say it out loud. We have 40% for date 41 and 49 for Kennedy. So he's going to be owned. But again, the point of what I said, I think Kennedy will still be 10% higher. He's going to be the second highest up top.
And yeah, I think a lot of that is because of the line moving from -300 to -500. So it's another one where I liked him a little bit more earlier in the week, but now the field is caught up and I don't know how much leverage I want to get. And at this point, I'm fine just getting different in the 9K range. Like my favorite Davis lineup, I could take him out and move down a little bit lower and pick a handful of people out. So I'm just kind of thinking of ways I'm going to get different on this card. I'm more focused on the underdogs that I like, and then I can get a little bit crazy with the expensive favorites. But I do like Davis in this fight. I think he's got a big striking edge. He's a good wrestler too. I don't think we're going to see anywhere near a 9 takedown performance from him in this matchup, but I do like him to get a knockout. The issue is that Vegas likes him to win a decision. That's his most likely prop anyways. And if he does win a decision and he's not going for many takedowns, I don't think he's going to be on the optimal lineup. And if he's going to be 40% owned, that makes me want to get away from him. But if I'm right and he does get a knockout, he might even have a takedown or two leading up to it. Could be really high volume. Like he has 120 point ceiling. So this one I'm not sure what to do with. I'll probably just end up being around field weight. I'll just let the solver do its thing. And if it gives me an extra 20%, that's fine. If it gives me 10% under the field, that's fine as well. And then on the Levy side, if Levy wins this fight, I feel good about him making not making the optimal lineup, but scoring more than 10x, because it's going to have to come through the ground. He's going to have to win 2+ rounds of takedowns, or he's going to have to submit Davis. Either way, I think it scores well. So good fight to target both sides of. I prefer Davis, but at this point, maybe Levy is my preferred leverage play because he won't get much ownership. So maybe I can get 15% off him and still be over the field.
Yeah, I think you definitely would be overweight with 15% Levy. You'd also have 15% dead lineups, but hey, that's someone's got to pay the rake. No, I'm playing. But yeah, Davis, I don't really have much more to add. I think he knocks him out too. I said knockout. He can mix in takedowns if he wants to. The leg kicks, I think, will be money. The jab, when Mike Davis fights, he is so fun to watch. The boxing's crisp. He can mix in takedowns. The cardio's fine. I just think he's better than Levy everywhere. And I think eventually Levy he's not going to be able to take the damage and he'll get knocked out. So yeah, Mike Davis in this one. But I'm with you. I like Mike Davis a lot, but if I loved everything, all my exposures, and I got 20% Mike Davis, I'd be fine with it. If I loved everything else, that's kind of how I go with a lot of that stuff in the 9Ks. So yeah, I'll let that determine, but I do like Mike Davis. We'll have no Natan Levy. Let's get to the other third biggest favorite on the card. I missed the fight. Thiago Moises, Mitch Ramirez stepping in on short notice for Brad Riddell. That would have been a fun fight. And Moises was -200 against Brad Riddell, which surprised me a little bit. Now -370. This fight's -200 to finish. Moises -140 inside the distance. Ramirez +525. I'd much prefer if I had to pick one of the. I'm not playing Ramirez in 20 teams or less. If I got to any of these big dogs, though, it would clearly be Mitch Ramirez for me. But man, feels like on the feet, Moises is probably better. The calf kicks will be there. He just fought way better competition than on the mat. The grappling isn't even close. Thiago's a very good grappler. I don't know. I guess wrestling, Mitch Ramirez maybe has a little bit. I still don't think. At the end of the day, short notice, going against a fringe 15 guy who's fought 20 minutes with Islam, has fought very good competition. I can't pick him, but I don't know. I guess maybe I could add in my pool, cap him at 5% and be with the field if you talk me into him.
Yeah, I'm not going to do that. I think I'm Xing Ramirez out. And the line really doesn't make sense compared to the Riddle fight. I don't know how he's just 10% more likely to beat Ramirez than he was Riddell. That's more on the Riddell side. Like, I would have been betting Riddell probably. But now this Ramirez guy, like, I'm not sold that he beats Moises in a 15-minute striking match. So he seems more knockout or bust. And Moises just got his ass kicked in his last fight real bad. And I think that's why people just aren't too high on him here. But this seems like last week. He seems like Gamrot from last week, where you're right in between two people who are going to be higher owned. And that killed me last week. I didn't have Gamrot. So this week I do want to get a little bit of Moises, and I think he makes a lot of sense as a pivot away from Kennedy and Mike Davis. Priced right in the middle of those guys. Those guys will be more owned. And Moises could go out there and just completely dominate this fight in the first round. He could land 3 takedowns and then get a submission with strikes along the way too. So I could see Moises scoring 115 points here and just outscoring those guys, making the optimal lineup. So I think I'll probably end up overweight on the Moises side, but I just didn't like what I saw on Ramirez. I don't think he belongs in the UFC. So I'm just going to X him out of my player pool, make this a little bit easier for me. I'll be overweight on the underdogs that I like to win. And you can find all those guys over at shippingnation.com. I give my predictions or the method of victory for every single fight. So the guys that I'm picking to win are the ones that I'll be leveraged on.
Yeah. Marley gives the pick, what round, and how he thinks. Submission, decision, finish. It's almost like you looked up my writing, though, because I wrote the same thing. Thiago Moises is the Gamrot play of last week. He has to be sandwiched. Like Kennedy, Mike Davis, right in between, the worst money line odds out of them. He has to be. So, I mean, man, it hurts here in Gamrot. One less takedown. That's all I needed. One less freaking takedown. A couple milliseconds earlier.
Can't believe
Still stings a little bit. 135K later. But, yeah, I mean.
Dude, I was so tilted for you after that card.
Yeah, I would say, hey, that's life, man. That's how it goes. Always on to the next. As Tambo says, one of my favorites. Nobody cares. Work harder. At the end of the day, nobody really does care. At the end of the day, they care if they win all that money, except a couple of the homies like you, like my man Rio. Some of you guys hit me up there, but nobody cares. Work harder. We'll get right back to it. Moises, though, yeah, I got nothing more to add. Right in between Gamrot, or right, the same play as Gamrot last week. Kennedy, Mike Davis, Moises. I'll be using him in chalkier lineups or in lower owned lineups. Not like he's going to be a big difference maker, but if you have money on the table and you play Moises and you don't play Davis or Kennedy, you can definitely build some pretty solid lineups there. And minus 140 inside the distance, good. Moises in round 1 is plus 250, which is solid. The last thing I will mention, though, 2 days ago, Wednesday, Moises got down to minus 450. Then someone put a big bet or something on Ramirez, now all the way to minus 370. And it looks like one bet was covered 80 cents. So I don't know what, I mean, maybe his parents, Mitchell Ramirez's parents or something, but that is very interesting to know.
Yeah, I don't think it would be like too sharp of money, but I also don't understand why Moises isn't a bigger favorite. So I don't know. Maybe there's something I don't know about this Ramirez guy. I didn't really watch a whole lot of fights from him, but what I did see, I just wasn't impressed enough for me to think he has a realistic chance of beating Moises. If you told me this is a 15-minute striking match, that's really where he would have his best chance, but I would still take Moises in that.
Yeah, me too. We'll keep it moving, though. Moises or bust in this one for me. I will say personally, though, if I had to play one of these dogs down below, I would play like between Levy, OSP, and Ramirez. I would go Ramirez. It sounds like you'd go Levy, right?
Yeah.
Cool. Let's keep it going. Next fight on the card. Still 6 to talk about? Gerald Mirshart, Brian Barbarena, minus 238. And I will say, Mike Davis did make weight. So did Kulabakhov. So right now, just waiting on Chelsea Chandler's sketch. Don't like seeing that. And Danny Silva, also don't love seeing that. But yeah, keep it going. Mirshart, Brian Barbarena, minus 238. Mirshart plus 203 is Barbarena. This fight's minus 175 to finish. I will say it opened minus 200. So some money has came in on the over. Mirshart minus 125 inside the distance. Barbarena plus 525. I mean, 2 UFC vets. I would say 2 old dudes, but like Barbarena's 32, or is it GM3? One of those two. I wrote it up. I was so surprised to see. It was like 34 and 32 or something, which is absolutely shocking. 36. Okay. 36 is GM3. 34 is Barbarena. Man, I thought both of them were a little older, especially Barbarena. I will say, though, when you're talking UFC career-wise, I mean, Barbarena's got a foot out the door, and that might even be being nice. how he's fighting at 185. That is not it. GM3, though, he's still cooking, and I think he can still cook for a couple of years. Like, his grappling just poises such a mind F, I'm not going to swear, but it just confuses. Like, they don't want to go to the ground. They cannot end up on the ground against GM3. And I think his striking is a little underrated, actually, because people do respect the grappling so much. So, I mean, I get the line. Like, seeing GM3 at minus 240 is crazy. But, man, Barbarena, looking at his frame, he should fight at 155. He's fighting at 185. He throws good volume. If he wins, I think he does score pretty well. GM3 is still a primary grappler, but I'm on the GM3 side. I guess in DFS, though, like, how do you see this fight? How do you like it compared to others in the range?
Yeah, I like the GM3 side more. I'll probably be overweight to him, depending. I don't know. I guess depends on where the field is at on him, because I could see him getting a first round submission, scoring 97 points, and maybe that just isn't enough. But if you told me he's going to score 97 points, I still probably want a good amount. And I think that it's fairly likely because his real edge is going to be on the ground in this fight. Barbarena has no takedown defense. He was submitted in 2 of his last 3 losses. Mirshart has like 27 career submissions. So I think at some point he's going to submit Barbarena. That's how I see this fight going down. And he could rack up like 6+ takedowns in the process if Barbarena keeps getting up before he gets submitted. So I feel like Mirshart has a big ceiling. But I also think he could. I mean, he's not a great wrestler. And if the striking is going, if it's close, maybe he spends too much time striking, and that's going to take away from any ceiling that he's going to have at 9,100 points. So if we spend the first round striking and then he decides he wants to go to the wrestling, it's probably too late at that point. He's probably off the optimal lineup. So I feel like I got to cap his ownership somewhere. But at the same time, if he's going to be close to half as owned as a Kennedy or a Davis, then I like him quite a bit more. And then Barbarena, he's in play as like a live underdog who could win a striking match here. He could knock out Mirshart. That's what would break the slate. But I like other underdogs more. So it's a fight where I probably just match the field or something like that on both sides. But I like Mirshart to get a submission. I picked second round, though. So second round submission, he's got to wrestle in the first round in order for that to pay off.
Yeah, I don't really have too much more to add. Like, if I had 40% Mirshart and loved everything, again, I'd be fine with that. If I had 20% Mirshart and I loved everything, I'd be fine with that as well. And for all the points you just made, like, he definitely has the advantage on the mat. The ceiling, I'm not going to say he has a 131-point ceiling. I guess he does. I guess almost anyone does in MMA. I don't see like the 10 takedowns like Gamrot and all that, etc. But man, like you said, a couple takedowns on the table, first round submission on the table. What if he gets a first round submission with like a minute left? I mean, that could easily be 108 with some strikes, something like that. I think 108 is good enough on this card. And then looking at ownership, kind of like you mentioned, I'm not going to say it out loud again. I said it'd be premium members. It's important, but he's definitely going to be lower owned than Mike Davis. He's going to be lower owned than Kennedy. Now, he will be higher owned than Chason, Gregorio, Kulabakhov, etc. But just in that upper 9K range, you at least know he's not going to be – he's going to be at least the third or fourth highest. I think him and Thiago Moises will be pretty close. So if you go Kennedy lineups and you save the 300 and GM3 outscores them, you know you will have eliminate a lot of dupes and stuff like that. So, yeah, I'll be using GM3 in a way like that. If Barbarena wins, I think he's probably on the optimal. Like, even though he's at 185, the dude can still strike. He still throws good volume. GM3 is not like a great striker by any means. I mean, he's been shut off. His lights have been shut off a couple times on the Chimaev fight, for sure. I mean, one hit and just dead. Barbarena with the volume, if GM3 can't get takedowns, I think he's live to put it on him, keep it on the feet, and he's going to be low owned as a dog too. So definitely mixing in some Barbarena. I think GM3, though, is the rightful favorite, does get the job done, and he'll be lower owned than Kennedy and Mike Davis. So I'll definitely have some up top to get different. But again, I don't love, like, if I had to pick in a vacuum, how would you rank Kennedy, Moises, Mike Davis, GM3, pretending prices don't matter? Pretend ownership does, though.
Man. Probably Kennedy first. If ownership doesn't matter, I would probably just go in line with the odds.
Yeah.
Kennedy, Davis, Moises, Mirshart.
Yeah.
But
definitely it's Kennedy Davis
I'm
for
completely
me.
fine flipping that whole thing.
You would, yeah. Fair enough. I still got Kennedy 1, Davis 2. I don't know. Moises and GM3 are pretty tough. I like Moises more and the upside more, but the $200 maybe GM3. It's definitely Kennedy, Mike Davis for me up top, though, is how I see it. But yeah, hey, two UFC vets making the walk. Wouldn't be surprised to see if this was the last Brian Barbarena fight in the UFC, though. Next fight on the card, Macy Chason, Panny Kianzad. Chason minus 220, Panny plus 185. This fight the most likely to go the distance on the card at plus 250. All the finish equity on the Chason side, plus 250 inside the distance. Panny plus 1,200. A rematch from years and years and years ago. Chason gets a second round submission. I mean, my quick breakdown on this, I had as a full fade. You change my Kulabakhov. I changed from fade to underweight. From underweight to fade Kulabakhov. I changed Chason from fade to underweight, and I'll keep her in the pool. And I'm happy you did that because even when I was typing it up and stuff, like Chason has upside. We have seen it multiple times, more so earlier in her career than as of late, but she's been wrestling more as of late. I think she can take Panny down. Even if she's against the fence controlling her, that counts as well. I mean, Panny just isn't good at the end of the day. I don't really know what else to say. She has no pop. Takedown defense isn't good. Like, Chason has plenty of outs here for a big score at pretty low ownership in this 9K range. So, yeah, I'm glad you changed it. I'll have no Kulabakhov. I'll have some of my Kulabakhov ownership to Chason. It's not that I love her much, but in chalky lineups is when I'll be playing Chason. In lineups I'm already different or have some leverage or left a lot of salary, of course, I like Mike Davis, Kennedy, those guys more in a vacuum personally. But how do you see this fight?
Yeah, I don't love it, but I could make a case for either side. These two fought before, like in the tough finale to get into the UFC, basically. Chason choked out Kianzad in the second round. She had like 5 minutes of control time in that fight, but with 0 takedowns. In the first round, it was Kianzad went for a takedown. Chason stuffed it, took her back. That's how she got the control time there. And then in the second round, Chason dropped her. So I mean,
how much do you value it that fight that many years ago? I mean, both these girls have had so many fights since then.
So
different parts of their career.
Kind of like a good amount. I feel like they're not that much. I feel like they've both improved where there's not like a big edge on either side from what they've recently done. But I give Chason the grappling edge. And if Kianzad's going to win, it would be a striking match. I'm not sure she's the better striker, but that's where she would need to win. But when Kianzad wins, she scores 72 to 81 points. I would expect that here. Really even low. I would expect her to be lower than 72 rather than over 81. But on the Chason side, if she had, a couple takedowns, like she just wasn't successful with her takedowns. And that's what makes me not like her at 9K in this fight, because I don't trust her to go out there and be able to land the 3 to 6 takedowns like she has in her last 2 fights. If she can do that at low ownership though, then we're talking. I mean, she scored 102 in their last fight. She scored over 100 in 4 other UFC wins as well. So she does have a ceiling. But the way I see this fight playing out is that we probably get 10 minutes of striking time and maybe Macy gets 2 takedowns. I don't think that. No, actually, Kianzad was taken down 3 times in her last fight. That's the most she's ever been taken down in a UFC fight. So I feel like 3 takedowns is probably the ceiling for Macy here. And if she's going to win a decision like Vegas expects, then I don't think she scores enough points. So on paper, it looks like Macy's going to go out there, score 80 points and win the fight, but not be on the optimal lineup. But if she's going to be so much less owned than all these other people, then I'm interested. It's the ownership that's talking me into Macy, just the ownership alone. But she could go out there and score 102 points again. I wouldn't be too shocked. It's just that I don't expect it.
Yeah, you couldn't say it anymore. Again, I had this fight as a fade initially. Panty's never scored more than 81. Like, I think we get some dogs on this card, at least one. And like, if the dogs I want to play, I at least want them to have some bit of upside. It feels like Panty's got nothing, so I got no interest there. But like you said, yeah, I mean, you go through the game logs of Macy. She's been wrestling more. You look at her ownership, especially in a card that the 9K range is very concentrated, especially between two guys, Mike Davis and Kennedy, and chalky lineups. If I'm playing O'Day Osborne, if I'm playing Dolgarian, if I'm playing the main event, stuff like that, you eventually need to get a lower own option, leave money, etc. That's how I'll be using Macy. Do I love it? No. In a hand build, it's pretty tough to click. I get it. But yeah, that's how you win all the cheese. Instead of holding hands with everyone, plays like that can win you all the cheese. I do think Macy has the upside there. What's going on, Lone Wolf? Glad to have you, man. Of course, you don't got to be sorry for being late. Wolf of Wall Street saying hi to his cousin. There you go. Couple fights left on the card. Big Marley again. Still appreciate everyone hanging out with us. Almost approaching an hour talking some UFC Apex. Don't love the Apex fights. I will admit that. But 4 fights left. Big Marley. Isaac Dolgarian. Christian Rodriguez. -187 is Dolgarian. +162 is C-Rod. -130 for this fight to finish. Dolgarian +150 inside the distance. C-Rod +350. How about a Rodriguez for the upset? Travis Duarte says, I hope not, because I'm on the Dolgarian side. However, I think Rodriguez makes a lot of sense as leverage because Dolgarian's going to get ownership. 8,500 has taken money throughout the week. Everyone's going to see 6-0, all first-round finishes, wrestling for days, just dominated Francis Marshall. Everything is going for him. C-Rod on the other end, too, though. Raul Rosas Jr. stopped that hype train. Cameron Simon set that hype train. He keeps getting the job done. Young kid. He definitely can pull it off here. I will say he is coming up a weight class, though, to 145, which I don't love. Made his UFC debut at 145 on short notice against Jonathan Pierce. Made a good account of himself there. Definitely impressed me. Went to 135, his normal weight class, but has struggled on the scale. So they're moving up to 145, which I don't love in this one. But, yeah, I'm on Dolgarian. I think he has all the upside in the world. I think even if you leave, somehow you go for – this might be a little extreme, but a Kennedy lineup to Dolgarian. They have very similar upside. So I don't think that's crazy by any means. It shows how strong of a play he is at 8,500, and then he's going to be popular. So that's just why I have interest in C-Rod. I think he loses. I don't love guys that going against primary wrestlers. He could spend minutes off his back and still win and not score enough. So I will have some fades of this fight. But direct leverage is clear as day on the C-Rod side. +350 inside the distance isn't bad. And at the end of the day, you're talking at 7,700 fighter. He's got all the talent in the world. So, yeah, good fight to target. I'm on the Dolgarian side, though, for sure.
Yeah, it's hard not to want to pick Dolgarian. All I've seen from him is just going out there and dominating people on the ground and finishing everybody in the first round. This is definitely his toughest fight to date, though. I just sent you my little write-up on this if you want to show it. But this is one where it's I feel like I need to be heavy on Dolgarian because he might be him. You know what I'm saying? He could just be a title contender in the next year or two because of what we've seen is just all magnificent. We haven't seen any flaws from this kid yet, but he hasn't been past the first round. And Rodriguez just coming off of 2 wins against really hyped up prospects. This is the prospect killer, and Rodriguez is good everywhere. So I feel like Rodriguez is going to have the striking edge in this one. And after round 1, I'm not confident Dolgarian's the better wrestler. So the way I put it is I just changed this to a 5-star ranking, which I'm going to be heavy on this fight. It'll be in the most of my lineups. But I put Dolgarian as the 4-star and Rodriguez as the 2. Because I probably go out there and I get Dolgarian in 50% of my lineup, something like that, because he's only 8,500. He scored 122 in his debut fight. I could definitely see him going out there and scoring 122 here. So I want a lot of him. But after round 1, man, I don't know what this guy's going to look like. And Rodriguez could be better everywhere. If Dolgarian slows down, Rodriguez could really put a beating on him, especially if he's landing takedowns himself against a gassed out Dolgarian. And Rodriguez could score 100+ points even if he drops the first round. So I'm just going to load up on this fight. I'll probably have 50% Dolgarian, but that's going to put me close to the field on him. And Rodriguez, I'm not sure where I put his ownership. You guys can check it out over at shippingnation.com. But if he's going to be, let's say, 15% owned, I'm fine doubling up the field and going 30% on Rodriguez because not only is that going to get me double the field, but it would also kill out close to 50% of the field who are on Dolgarian. So I might have this fight in 85 or more percent of my my lineups. But from what I've seen, it's just so hard to pass up on Dolgarian right now. So he's going to be the pick. If I'm making one lineup on this whole slate, I would rather have him in it because I don't want to have 2 points from Rodriguez in the end of it. So, yeah, give me Dolgarian. I hope he does keep impressing because sky's the limit for this kid.
Yeah. No, I mean, the one concern people will talk about, 6-0, all 6 first-round finishes. How does he look if he gets outside? Who knows at the end of the day? But what I do know is he trains F Factory X in Colorado at elevation, and the dude has wrestled his whole life. So, I mean, those two things usually mean pretty solid cardio. Now, of course, you can have a cardio dump, not pace yourself, plenty of ways where it fails, but at elevation, dude looks like a stud, and he's wrestled his whole life. Like, I think this guy has to have cardio, especially if he just wants to wrestle. Like, he can wrestle for hours on end, you'd think, at the gym. So, yeah, I'm not worried as much about the cardio as maybe some. I just love the Dolgarian side. Like, the upside's huge. C-Rod for leverage. Dolgarian's the pick, though. I would not stack this fight. With 13 fights, and especially like with all the takes on the Dolgarian side, could you stack this? I mean, that means C-Rod would just be off his back pretty much the whole time. So I wouldn't like the upside as much there. 85, 7,700. Like, at that point, I'd rather just punt with Mitch Ramirez or something and hope you get 40 in a loss rather than
I think you would
60
need
in a loss.
Dolgarian to be the underdog for a stack to work. Dolgarian goes out there, lands 8 takedowns, and loses the fight. But if he loses the fight with 8 takedowns, he's not going to make it as the favorite. I don't think so.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I wouldn't stack, though. 3 fights left. This one very quick for me. Kennedy Nchukwi. Why? Say it, Marley. Say the last name.
Kennedy Nchukwi.
Nchukwi, that's it. 100%, that's it. Had to hear it. Kennedy Nchukwi taking on OSP. I still might have butchered it. -400 this fight to finish. Hold on. -400 for this fight to finish on BetOnline, and Kennedy's -475. So again, sometimes books do this where they have something that just absolutely makes no sense. Like this. If you think Kennedy wins inside the distance, just bet this fight to finish at -400 over -475 for him as an individual. OSP +900. Kennedy, I will say, in round 1 as well, +115 in this fight. I'm glad you're laughing, G. Kiefer. Trying to make your day better with some of this stuff, with some of these butchered names. Easy fight though, Big Marley. We already talked enough about Kennedy. OSP sucks. OSP right now in his career sucks. Should have retired years ago. I mean, when Felipe Lin's starching you in a minute, that is not great at all. So, yeah, this line's right. OSP's way over the hill. Probably his last fight in the UFC. Doesn't throw any volume. Yeah, of course he can clip Kennedy. Like, that's what he has to do. He has to hit him with a shot. He has power. Kennedy has been rocked. But, yeah, puncher's chance for everyone. There will be no puncher's chance with OSP in my lineup, though. So, if you got the money, the team makes sense, play Kennedy. Just, be careful how you play him is all I got.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I would actually rather waste 5% of my lineups on OSP than like Mitch Ramirez.
Okay.
But I'm probably going to end up fading OSP too. But yeah, I like Kennedy. The only issue is $9,400. I'm fine with any of the guys priced below him. But as I mentioned, if price and ownership doesn't matter, then give me Kennedy because I think he gets a first-round knockout here. He's -400 inside the distance. All the other books are closer to -600 on the fight being inside the distance. So
definitely price shop. Yeah, I always go against BetOnline. I think it's one of the sharpest books out there for MMA. But definitely make sure, and they get their lines up early. That's why I think so, because they take the earliest action at most places. Definitely price shop though in MMA, like all sports.
And any finish from Kennedy, whether second or third round, could be enough for him. He could still score over 100 points with the second or third round knockout. But I think if it's a first round knockout, it's going to be hard to kick this guy off the optimal lineup. I would think he's scoring over 105 if he gets a first round knockout. And he is, last I looked, he was +115 to win in round 1. So my plan in my head is to match his round 1, not match, make my minimum his round 1 odds. So +115. Right now, that's like right below 50%. It's 46.5%. So maybe I put minimum 46.5% on the solver. But then I'd also be fine getting up to like 60, 70% Kennedy. And he could get a quick win bonus too. He could go out there and get a 40-second knockout, and then he's on the optimal lineup. So I'm going to be heavy on him. The only thing is I'm fine putting Moises in a Kennedy lineup. I'm fine putting Davis in the Kennedy lineup. I'm fine putting Mirshart in a Kennedy lineup. So that might take me down to like my minimum exposure, but I'm still going to have probably 45+% Kennedy in my lineups. But if I have 45%, I might still be underweight to the field. So I don't know. Maybe my preferred play is to get away from him. Hope that he respects OSP a little bit too much, doesn't land a lot of volume, knocks him out in the second round, and doesn't get there. Ownership wise, that's probably what I think I would want. But I haven't built lineups yet. I'm not sure. I built one shell lineup, and Kennedy, I'm pretty sure, is in it. So we'll see how it goes. But on the solver, I would be fine if it gives me a little bit more. Like if I ended up with like 45% Mirshart and I'm doubling the field on him, I'm not completely against that.
Yeah, I mean, if I loved everything and I had 100% Kennedy and I felt good about all my teams, I'd obviously play it. I don't think that'll be the case. Again, I try and not hold hands with like 70 people. Kennedy will be the highest owned player or the fighter on the slate. So if I'm playing 100 lineups or something, finding 100 good Kennedy teams a little tougher for me. But I want plenty of them. I mean, he has all the upside in the world. I think OSP sucks. I will say, because it's still fresh in the head from last week, there's nothing worse, Big Marley, than a freaking 1 minute and 1 second finish. I will just say there's nothing worse than missing that bonus. Just like back in the day before they changed the bonus, there was nothing worse when a dude went out there and starched him in 10 seconds and you somehow get outscored by like a war that went the distance and stuff like that. So, yeah, people are going to complain regardless. I think DK got it right, adding the minute bonus, but yeah, I mean, it's tilted when you miss that shit by a second. I will say milliseconds. I will say that.
Yeah.
Von Flue choke coming? I hope not. I definitely hope not. 2 fights left, Big Marley. 2 solid fights. Interesting co-main event though. Brian Battle, Ange Lusa, -183. Brian Battle +158. Ange Lusa. This fight's +110 to finish. And I will say this fight opened +160 inside the distance. So money has been coming in on the under. Brian Battle wow, he's taking plenty of money, even of yesterday. +165 inside the distance now. Ange Lusa +500. So I'll say I had this fight. I'm picking Ange Lusa. He's definitely I'm picking the dog to win. Of course, he's my preferred play for 1,000 less. I mean, he's very durable, which is part of the reason I had Brian Battle as underweight. But man, this inside the distance prop coming down to +165 at 8,500. And I do think his ownership will still be capped with Dolgarian right there and stuff. So I might actually change and get a little more Brian Battle. Ange Lusa is still my preferred play, though, because I think striking's close. Battle's been susceptible to takedowns. Ange Lusa is starting to wrestle more. Volume's still there, 124, 115 in his last 2 fights. At 7,600, I mean, the floor is pretty high. It looks +110 for this fight to finish, so expect to go the distance. Volume, takedowns, high floor, high ceiling at 7,600 as I see it. So, yeah, I'm on the dog here. But, yeah, talk to me your thoughts, because the Battle inside the distance prop moving is definitely interesting. And I had it underweight, but I might change that.
I mean, yeah, maybe Battle's probably more dangerous, I would think. But, I mean, I don't know. But Lusa is so durable. So I really have a hard time seeing Battle get a finish in this one. And I do think this is really close to a pick'em fight, in my opinion. So I'm definitely on the underdog in this one. Lusa can strike at a high pace. He's got power too, and he can mix in wrestling. And he scored 115 and 124, both in decisions. That's what I like to see. So I think he's live to go out there and get 6+ takedowns in this fight and still score 100+ in a decision. It also wouldn't completely shock me if Lusa went out there and got a knockout or a submission. So, I mean, I guess I'd be more surprised by a submission, but he'd go out there and knock out Battle. But I expect this fight to go the distance. Vegas expects this fight to go the distance. If the fight goes the distance, it's going to be hard for Battle to pay off an $8,600 price tag, and it won't be that hard for Lusa to do it. So I will for sure be overweight to Lusa, and I will be underweight to Battle. There's like 3 or 4 underdogs on this card who I'm picking to win. And if I'm not picking them to win, I think they have a high ceiling. I'm just going to be overweight on my underdogs, hoping that I'm right. And then I'll mix in a bunch of favorites. My favorite Kennedy lineup, hopefully I'll have that same lineup with Moises. Hopefully I'll have that same lineup with Davis and Mirshart and Chason. Like, that's how I see it going in my head. But who knows? I haven't built lineups yet. But this is one where I see me going overweight to the underdog. He could possibly even be my favorite underdog on the card. And then Battle, I want to fade him, to be honest with you. But if he does get a finish, then maybe we need him. So I'm not going to X him out. I'll just be underweight.
I'm definitely going to keep Battle underweight after what you said, but I definitely am not going to X him. Like plus 165, even if I got like 25, even 30% Battle, and I loved everything else in my script, because 8,600, and Dolgarian's 8,500, and then the main events are going to be owned heavily. We'll get to that, 8,379, and then people wanted Kennedy or Mike Davis or something. Like, his ownership has to be, and Luce's, I don't think we're the only ones saying this about Lusa too. Like, I think people will see the game logs, etc. So I do think Lusa gets some ownership as a dog, one of the more popular ones, which makes Battle even more interesting there. So yeah, I'm going to play some Battle, but Lusa is my preferred play and my pick in this fight for sure. But I have more interest in Battle now than I did coming into the show. And a lot of that has to do with that inside the distance prop and, of course, where he is priced. Last fight on the card, Big Marley. Still got people hanging in there watching. Hour 11 in. We appreciate every single one of you. If you're watching on playback, appreciate you guys as well. What's going on, Raven? Hit that like, hit that subscribe. Always appreciate it. And, of course, you want to join us. You want all of our MMA content, projections, ownership, fight rankings, fight breakdown. I just put that Dolgarian one on the screen. You get a little sneak peek at what Big Marley has to offer. Everything you need, NBA, MMA, and NBA, NHL, NASCAR, PGA, soon to be MLB. Head over to the Nation. Use that promo code Masters15. 15% off. Main event time, Big Marley. The big boys, pretty much a coin flip. Tai Tuivasa, Marcin Tybura. Depending on where you look, like DraftKings minus 115, minus 105 tie. Bet Online minus 117, minus 103. Tie is a slight favorite, is the consensus right now. This fight is minus 1,000 to finish. Tai Tuivasa minus 115 inside the distance. Marcin Tybura plus 115. Ownership's going to be pretty close. Let's see what we have right now. I'll say it out loud because it is important. 46 and 44. So we pretty much have a straight pick 'em. I agree with that. The $400 difference from Tybura with the pretty close money line has his ownership even higher. Like earlier in the week when Ty was around minus 125, I thought we could see like a 50%, 40% or something like that. Ty, way bigger name, the power, etc. But with this line and the pricing, yeah, I think people are just going to click the Tybura name a little bit, even without the way less name value. Gun to my head, I'm picking Ty because of the power. I don't feel confident about it one bit. DFS, though, I think I'm going to have more Tybura, and it's mainly for the reason, build a Ty team, take Ty out, go Tybura, and you're hardly giving up anything. Like, you're giving up, what, 15 cents, 14 cents on the money line? Like, so that's my thought process. All game theory, I don't really have much to break down. I think the low kicks will be money for Ty early. The power is definitely on Ty. The longer the fight, though, goes, I favor Tybura. If this fight hits the mat, Ty is going to be in a world of trouble because I think it'll be Tybura on top. Does he just hold him against the fence? Like, it's a smaller cage. I think that probably benefits Tybura. So, yeah, I can go break down that stuff. Game theory-wise, though, ownership pretty much a coin flip. Prefer the 400 saves with Tybura because you can do more with the roster. What you got?
Yeah, I think my plan is just to be completely all in on this fight. 100% of my lineups will have it. It's minus 1,000 to end inside the distance. So it's a 90% chance that it ends early. But I mean, even in a Tybura decision win, he could make the optimal. So I think I just want to lock it in. I want to make a rule. One of these fighters is in every single one of my lineups. I think it's either a first or a second round knockout from Tuivasa, or I think Tybura finishes him maybe after that. I do have one of these guys in my core plays over there at shipitnation.com, though, so you can figure out which side I think that's going to happen. But either way, I think you should load up on this fight. If you think Tuivasa is going to win, maybe get 60% Tuivasa, go 40% Tybura. If you think Tybura is going to win, maybe do the opposite. But I think this will be on the optimal lineup. I think we're going to score 100 plus from whoever it is, and they're priced right there in the mid range. So I feel, not strongly. I don't really feel like I know who's going to win the fight. I just feel strongly that it's going to be on the optimal lineup. And then my exposure will kind of feel strongly over there, over at shipitnation.com. So go check it out. We got all the sports. We've been crushing all the sports. Discord is on fire. So I hope to see you guys over there, but good luck to you, Title. Good luck to everybody listening. Let's ship it.
Yeah. Let's run a little better than last week. I have not looked at any prize picks. I'll say it from the top. I only play DFS MMA. I would sports bet it sometimes. I live bet. I think live betting MMA is the biggest edge out there in terms of sports betting, any sports. But yeah, I don't do prize picks, so I'm not going to say something. I can get enough action in DFS that I like is the reason for that. So I'm not going to say something I don't play. Last thing, though, Steven, is a rule talking about how much money can be left on the table in MMA. No, it's slate dependent, in my opinion, is how I approach it. There's been winners that have left $2,500 on the table. You can definitely leave a lot. I don't usually leave that much. When it gets like the $2,500 that I leave, it's like a short notice. Someone that was priced as a dog is now the favorite and pricing all that. I think a general rule, maybe $1,500, $1,200, $1,300 maybe. But yeah, no strong rule. I'd mess around with builds, hand builds and stuff, and then see where you feel comfortable with. Like today, I always look at the favorite. Where can I drop off from the favorite to the dog and feel good? The biggest gap was Fialho and Ode Osborne today at 87 and 75. So probably 1,200 is where I'd max it as a general rule. But yeah, that's what I got. Good stuff, Marley. Good breakdown. As always, I'm always late. I'm going to try and shorten these up just a little tad bit for you because you got to pick up your kid. I know it. Good luck, everybody out there. Let's ship something. Let's ship something big. Masters 15% off. Head of the nation. Check it out. For Big Marley, I'm Title Town. Good luck this week and be safe. Have a good one.